Welcome. I've been away. I was in Paris. So whenever I'm in Paris, I'm always sort of shopping for things. And it brings me to accessories. And a lot of these objects come from my travel around the world, whether it's Indonesia or China or objects like this from Thailand. And I like to be able to say that they work best in contemporary spaces because A, I'm shopping with my work in mind, but I think that objects like these, which have a sense of earthiness, really work well in, very clean, open spaces. Whether you have a mixture of earth tones, golds and silver, or here of coloration. I mean, the fact that when you have these colors, whether it's a beach house or in an apartment that's very white, they really jump out at you. I like to balance sizes, whether it is a high, medium, or low, like these shields that came from Thailand. They are parts of old buildings and they were used on the roof as detailing. But the blending of coral, of tonalities that are all white, really, I think, work very well. The camel I bought at an auction, and I've always loved burial site animals. I think that they're so great. I love the fact that the earthy tone of it, and the sophistication of the shape is a good transitional piece. Um, Again, in doing things, these came from, again, Indonesia, and they are very primitive. But the fact that I mounted them on bases, all of a sudden now they become like little sculptures in a space. And again, high, medium, low, different tonalities, the green and sort of this cement color, really on a side table in the living room or in bookshelves in the library, really always work very well. Again, sets of threes. I love the faces, they're like little people, especially on the shelving in the library. Over here are Cambodian torsos. And again, something like this just brings such a different element to a space. The sculptural quality, the sense of how the fabrics fold. I think that those are really wonderful to have in an environment, especially a contemporary one. Um, these vessels I have made in India and I've designed them and they're made out of marble. But the sense of a collection of white objects, all of them together with different shapes, I think really adds a lot to a space. And I think, again, there's the earthiness. Um, a lot of what I buy has that sort of patina to it. And it's the yin and yang of my thinking, of very sort of textural, crude elements, matched to contemporary objects, upholstery, and things like that. These over here are great. They're from tea ceremonies, and they're bronze. I love all the tonalities of it. You can put a single flower that sets of bells. I mean, all these elements, I think, can bring so much personality to a space, whether from here or from any place you buy them. It's not keeping everything at the same level. It gives a depth to the space, and I think that that's so important because you don't want those spaces to feel like they were done like 20 minutes ago. These elements bring to a space a sense that, of travel, of the past. And I think that it's very important. While you're in the showroom, I wanted to show you some of the new pieces, upholstered pieces that we're doing. This, which is the Matthew chair, has oak arms and the base. I've used this in Florida. it gives a sense of the indoor or the outdoors. Um, it's funny because I name the pieces that I create for spaces um, under the name of the client. So this one is the Karen chair, and it's great. I'm using it right now in the lobby, and I am doing it on a swivel base. And that works great in the TV room, so you can swivel to the television and, or back to the conversational piece. Um, this is the Michelle dining chair. And I was inspired by the 1920s. And you can see how the legs, it has all these different dimensions to it. It's a great chair because I love to sit around a dining table and talk for at least, not me talking, but having conversations for 1 or 2 hours. And if you have a really uncomfortable dining chair, it just, it kills that sort of wonderful moment. So I'm going to sit here, and I know that we have some questions. So why don't you send them in and we can talk about accessorizing or whatever you want to talk about. First question is,
this is from your friends here at the showroom. First of all, you can order all these chairs right here at the VW showroom.
COM, or we have materials here. And the person to talk to, if you call VW home, is Trudy Romeo. And she was 23 when we started working together, and I was 25. She says she was 19, but I don't believe it. And she'll be very helpful in putting these objects together for you if you want. She can create settings and send those off to you. Next question.
And you're also good with customizing. How much will you customize the chair? Like you said, a swivel base.
And we put it on a swivel base. I mean, not that much because you can't make it too narrow or too deep. But other pieces that we produce here, we do custom.
You talked a little bit about high, medium, and low.
Right.
But that is a quality in most of your settings. Although I have seen some that are even, that kind of make a horizontal panel.
Well, I love ikebana, which is Japanese floral arrangements, and all those are always done high, medium, low. I think it brings to the space that you're doing these settings a sense of calmness, a sort of a progress. If they're all the same height, I think that it becomes too monotonous. And if one is very, very tall and one is very short, I think there's a strangeness to that. So I like that transition from the high to the low.
You answered this a little bit, but
Okay.
Do you offer styling advice to people coming to the showroom?
Well, when somebody comes here, or sometimes we have people from California that will call and send a picture of the table that they're looking for objects for, and we will give them different choices of ways of accessorizing that table. Or if they come in, we certainly have surfaces where we can set up, settings for them to see.
Can you talk a little bit about when you're shopping and how you know you found something for the showroom?
I'm not shopping literally for the showroom. I'm shopping the things that I like. And that's a wonderful thing about having your own sort of environment, because if I like it, I buy it. I always said, well, if it doesn't sell, I can always put it in my home. And the objects that I'm buying are things that really fascinate me. I mean, I think that if you're a big traveler, things that at the beginning of my travels many years ago were wonderful now seem more common. And so what I always am doing is refining my selections because I want those things to be as unique as possible. And I think traveling, yes, it starts to refine your eye in what you're buying and, you know, how it can work within your space. I don't buy souvenirs. I buy objects that are really able to be integrated into my spaces or other designers' spaces.
I just got a note that we can't hear the question, so I'm going to try to speak up a little more.
Okay.
What is your favorite city to shop in?
What is my favorite city to shop in? I think Paris. I mean, the flea market is really amazing. I love Thailand because you can go to very refined antique shops or go to Chatuchak, which is the weekend market where different dealers bring things every weekend to sell. Bali is great. They have an enormous capability of creating objects, new objects that have the sense of age and texture to them. I would say that those are the places that I keep returning to buy.
And when you visit a new country every year, do you sometimes have luck finding something and sometimes you don't have luck?
The question is once I go to places I've never been to, how do I find things? You know, I was accused of being able to find something to buy in an empty room. I just start looking. If somebody's bringing me around, I ask them, are there any shops that sell all things? You know, and you start. I mean, I was in Ethiopia and going through this really enormous market. And, you know, you start looking and you find things that can lead you on to something else. Or in Istanbul, walking down alleys and going into stores or little shops and finding things that, you know, that's the fun of shopping when you travel, is to discover, because whenever I walk through the showroom, I am back again in those countries. I'm back again when I found those objects. And I think it's a cheap way of traveling is just come through here for me and just look at the things that I found.
You've been to Africa several times, but I think only once since the pandemic. Is that right?
Well, no. I actually, the year before last, I was in Egypt. I'm going back to Egypt again in December. Going to a country called Chad, which I've never been to. Where else have I been in Africa? Oh, I was in Sudan 3 years ago. I mean, you can't go there now, but when I was there, amazing. Sudan has used to be the Nubian pharaohs, which were the black pharaohs. And they built all these pyramids in Sudan. So when I was there, you could go into areas that you saw 15, 20 pyramids, much more than you see in Egypt.
You haven't been able to travel to Ethiopia in quite a while. So when you want an Ethiopian stool, what do? You
wait until it's time. If I'm looking for an Ethiopian stool, well, I was in Ethiopia 5 years ago. No, there are dealers in different countries that I contact and I buy things from. So, you know, once you form a relationship, you can send them pictures of what you're looking for, and then they send you pictures back of what they have available. I mean, it's much more expensive if you're buying just one thing and shipping it back compared to buying, you know, 15, 20, 30 objects. It's much easier to pack them together and send them on.
Can you talk about how you layer furniture, like taller tables, that's a tongue twister, taller tables with smaller ones and a mix of styles?
how do I blend furniture together? You know, it's funny. It's just like the accessories. I like a high, medium, and a low. And what do I mean by that? Well, if the sofa has a high back, I'm not going to do high back chairs next to it. I may do a medium. And then the coffee table in front, that's a low. You're trying to, you know, I've said this so many times, you're trying to have a conversation between the objects. And you want those objects to really stand on their own, but have the other pieces that are around them be complementary to them. One of my favorite rooms that I did in Sag Harbor was this living room, sort of a loft space. And every piece around that sofa, there were like 5 different chairs. Each one was a different period, a different shape, and a different fabric. But all the fabrics were in the same tonality. So I tried to select, for a 1940s iron chair, I did leather. For a Edwardian clock chair, I did a more textural. You know, I just tried to find the materials that worked with the different frames. But you look at them and they all were cohesive because the color kept them together. I don't know. You know, people ask me these questions. I work on instinct and I work on what I feel looks right. I don't question it, I just go with it. Which is, I think, part of the reason that the work has always changed, because I'm seeing and thinking of things always in a different way.
Can you talk about the pieces that are behind you on the wall?
I don't know what they are.
Well, you have to look.
Okay. Oh, those are interesting. In Indonesia, because of the heat, above the doors, there were these pieces like this with a screening behind it. And that was to let the air into the space. So at night you may close your door, but the air is still circulating. What I do with them is I do mirror behind it. And it's really fun because it looks like there's something beyond that screen. And they're always fun in series of 3s, vertically or horizontal. They always work very well.
One of the things you frequently use is Thai temple ornaments. How did you see them in an antique store? Did you see them? How did you decide that was going to be a good accessory?
When I started using them, like I would say 18, 19 years ago, they had found a lot of kilns that had collapsed. And when the kiln collapsed, they just left it where it was. They didn't empty it. And they were able to take out a lot of the things that they found in the kilns. And at the market, there were all of a sudden a lot of stupas and little figures that went on the tops of buildings. And that's how I started buying them. And I have a dealer in Bangkok that does all the mounting for me. So whenever I buy them, I lay them out on the floor, and then I start mounting them at different heights. So on the floor, they're laying flat, and then I adjust which one I want taller, which one I want smaller.
Second to last question, why do you put 3 objects together?
It's again, it's well, 3 is my favorite number. I think 4 you're starting to pair off. 2 is not enough. And 1 is just a tchotchke that's just sitting there. So the set of 3, the trilogy, 3 is a sacred number. It's a magical number. And I think it sort of has a sort of very calming quality to it.
Okay, last question for today, although we have others that we'll continue with next time. How do you learn to trust your instinct? If you're unsure about your instinct, what's the best way to kind of work with that?
I mean, if you don't trust yourself, you're in trouble. I mean, I think because of my background, that's all I had was my instinct. And I was in New York at the age of 18, 19, alone. I had to trust my instinct. And I found that the more I trusted my instinct, the better things went. And I think in design, a lot of great designers through the ages were people that were self-taught. And a lot of that had to do by their instinct. I wasn't ever given a set of rules of what to follow. I just made my own. And with the boundary of the things that I learned through looking at books, going to museums. So the instinct, I think your first instinct is usually the right one. I think that the more you keep questioning, the more convoluted it becomes. And I think that first answer is usually the one that is coming from your intuition. Nothing else?
It's 1:30.
1:30, Well, this is fun. And we'll see each other again next week. Thank you for coming.